And welcome to the last lesson of our 1-hour intro to Android Studio tutorial using Kotlin. All we're going to cover in this last section is a quick look into the debugger, how to use it, and where it might be useful to us in our code. Now, so far, every time we've been running this, it's pretty simple so far, but every time we've been running it, we've been clicking on this green run button to run it as if we were actually loading up the application, as if it was on a device or something. Well, there may be times when, in fact, there will guaranteed be times in your development where you'll run into a bug. Like you'll be navigating through your app, you'll click on a button, and some values just don't add up, and all of a sudden your app crashes for whatever reason. Well, we might not know exactly where the error is, we might have a rough idea, but trying to print everything line by line is a real pain. So that's where our debugger comes in handy. It allows us to kind of guess roughly where we think the error is, and then step through each line of code to see what evaluation is happening, so then hopefully we can get a closer look at what the error is and where it is. So in my app here, I only really have one piece of functionality, and that's this function press button action, where all of the actual action is occurring. This isn't really going to return negatives because I know this ID exists, so there's going to be no problem there. So I think the problem is somewhere within my button, assuming there is one. And so I'll set my breakpoint here, and what this will do, setting the breakpoint, you just do so by clicking along here somewhere. What this will do is when the app's code's execution reaches this statement, it's going to stop. And then it's going to allow me to debug my way through the rest of the execution here. So rather than clicking on this, we're actually going to click on the green debugger so that we can open up the debug window. Now let's just wait for this to load. Let's actually get the emulator up and running. Okay, let's not worry about that. Alright, so I guess it's going to want to load out that debugger again. Okay, and waiting for the debugger. All right, good to go. So what we're going to do, nothing's happening again because the breakpoints are not set anywhere within the code except in this button. So when I press this, that's where our debugging begins because the execution reaches this line and it says, okay, there's a breakpoint here, we need to stop. By the way, to remove a breakpoint, simply click on it again, but I do want it there for demonstration purposes. Okay, so at this point, it's now going to give us the results of each line. And it does so as we click on this step over. So there's a few different things we can do. One is step over, step in, one is skip, and then one is step out of. So step over just moves to the next line. What it does, it evaluates the current line or executes the current line statements and then moves to the next line. Step into will enter a method rather than just executing it and leaving. Okay, step out of is if we're inside of a method and we want to break out of it, and then this one we won't really step into, we won't really worry about that. But let's just kind of run through this execution here. So in this line, all I'm doing is guessing my text from my text view. Okay, this is just specifying my text view here. Okay, gives a little bit of information about it, probably some kind of an ID or an address. And then we want to step over this guy, and so it executes this statement and moves to the next line. In my case, it's just setting text view text equal to intro to Android string because that's just the result of getting the string. So if we open this up, we can see some information about it. See that it's a string indeed, count 32. We don't need to worry about the other stuff so much. Okay, how about the next line? Let's step over again. So now this is saying, okay, well, I'm setting this button equal to this view as a button. So all it's doing is casting it, and as you can see, that's exactly what's going on here. It gives a little bit of information about it, in fact a lot of information about it, but we're not going to take a look at that. Okay, so let's move over to the next line again. It's now getting my button text, and as you can see, it says press me, so it's evaluating that line and then moving on. So step over again. Okay, this is just setting my text, nothing really to show there. But now this is a point where if we didn't understand how the log function works, we might want to step into this. If we just step over this, it will execute this and move on to the next line, which in this case is breaking out the function. But maybe we want to examine the log function a little bit better. So maybe we want to step into this. So it takes us to the log declaration. It also gives us a little bit of information about it. It says the tag is main activity and the message is intro to Android. Now I'm not gonna spend much time going through the actual log class here, but you can check that out if you want. It's pretty interesting seeing the actual developer's implementation of these functions. But if you then wanted to step out of this and then just continue on with a regular execution, press that and it just kind of exits out there. Okay, so for each line we run in the debugger, it basically tells you while you're on that line the results of the stuff on the right hand side. So for example here, or here I guess we are, it's telling us that text view text is equal to intro to Android. So it's getting all the information that it needs. And then when we step over, it executes that line of code, those statements, and then moves on to the next one. Okay, and again, this is really helpful for discovering where errors would be within your code, because instead of having to run it, print something out, okay, there's the bug, run it, print something out, okay, getting another error, and keep doing that, you could just use your debugger and kind of do everything all in one go. Helps you to pinpoint exactly where the issues are. Okay, just to quickly recap, evaluate, move to the next line, move into a function so that we can further examine the behavior within that, leave a function, for step into we don't really use. And the debugger, again, is just a way to pinpoint exactly where your problems are. You can just go ahead and stop running that, remove this breakpoint, and we're good to go back to normal execution. Okay, so that actually is the last topic I wanted to cover as far as an intro to Android goes. All we're going to do in the very final video coming right up is to provide a very quick summary to everything we've covered, all of the topics, and then we'll set you on your way to hopefully watch some more tutorials.